Hey guys, Mark Kwok here. Some of you guys may know I'm a huge audiophile. I love speakers and headphones, and I have pared down significantly since those days of going crazy, because at some point you can go really crazy chasing that last 2% of audio quality. But some of you may be curious what my speakers are. And I've recently changed up my speakers from something that used to be a little bit more esoteric, a pair of Martin Logan Purities. Martin Logan is an electrostatic, and you guys may have seen in some of my videos previously, it's like this nice film layer of like super thin speaker that's like, how is sound even coming out of that thing? But I recently switched up my speakers to be a little cleaner. And the speakers in question, you guys probably already know because it's in the title of the video, is the KEF LS52 Metas. So some of you guys may know in a previous video, which I'll link up here, I own the KEF LSX2s. These are a desktop speaker, a little bit big, but not huge. And they're like kind of the little brother to what I'm about to explain here, the LS50s. So the version I got is the LS52 Metas. The difference between the Metas and the wireless is that one is powered with, you can just hook up like, let's say an iPhone to it and basically have sound. These are the Metas. The big difference there is that they aren't powered, so you need to actually have an amplifier. I already happen to have an amplifier, so that's the reason I decided to go in that direction. And I actually went a step further and I included the KEF KC62 sub as well, which is a small sub. So this will be a bit of a review of the speakers, but then also a little bit about the sub as well. So let's go into the pros and the cons and just my overall thoughts. Obviously you could tell that I like this already, but let's go into a little more detail. The first pro is the aesthetics. I mean, they just look so nice. I felt this way about the LSX, but the LS52s just look really nice. They're in a small enough package, but with the big sound, right? They still have big sound, but they are small enough package that they don't take up too much space. They come in a couple different colors, but man, I chose the white because I have some white furniture, and boy, they look fantastic. You walk in, you see them. It just brings a smile to my face just from a looks perspective. I'll say the same thing about the sub as well. The subwoofers usually are pretty big and boxy. This one's a nice, tight little subwoofer. It still provides a ton of nice deep bass, but it is small, it looks really sleek, just like the speakers. Aesthetics are awesome. Number two is just the simplicity of these speakers. Simple in their look, sure, but in their functionality and everything. I mean, you have to download an app for some of the functionality, but these are not active speakers, they're passive speakers. So really you just need to plug them into some sort of something and some power source, and then you're good to go. Out of the box, I mean, I don't have an amazing amplifier or anything like that. I have a pretty generic Yamaha S501. It's like a decent receiver or integrated amplifier. And it seems to do a great job of just, the sound is still fantastic. Like, I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. Now, it could be better amplification. I'm sure you can go 1,000 times better, but I'm trying to get a very practical, and I would say, you know, not quite value, but like something that doesn't break the bank as far as the whole setup goes. And lastly, of course, let's go into sound, the last pro here, which is really where we should spend most of the time. These are a really good sounding pair of speakers. And I feel like with these speakers, and especially with the sub together, I'm not wanting more. Synopsis I'll give on the sound, and there's a couple things. So I had these electrostatic speakers before, and they would be sort of enveloping. The sound would kind of envelop me. This is a little different. This, I feel, is very targeted. It feels like the artist is in front of you, and that sound source, the artist is like giving you the sound from that position. This is particularly interesting because also the speakers themselves, like often you have to figure out ways to sort of like angle the speakers so they're perfectly hitting your ears. They actually recommend you just keep these speakers dead straight. The thing is, I really do like that idea of having the artist literally right in front of you. If you sit in the middle of like these speakers, you actually can just sit there and pretend like the artist, or you know, someone who's singing or the guitarist or whatever is literally right in front of you. That is a really cool sort of sensation, and that has its pros and cons. Sometimes maybe you want more, like I said, the enveloping sound, whereas the soundstage is like all over the place. This is a very particular thing, but to me, for my style and the way I like to listen to it, this is about like this is the type of way I'd like to listen to speakers. The way I think about these speakers is that they're kind of like the jack of all trades, master of none. That is kind of the way I like I personally like it when something isn't too specialized in one direction, because then it kind of covers all use cases. If I'm trying to listen to something kind of quiet, maybe some jazz in the background while I'm cooking, great. These sound fantastic doing that. If I want to hit some rock and roll and I want to just be right in the center, just closed eyes and just focusing on that music, that also is projected super well on these. Now, there are speakers that do one of those two things incredibly well. Maybe these won't be the speakers that would do that. They're not like specialized in that way. But for almost all use cases, it does above a certain bar. Let's go into some cons. So I would say the thing that I spoke about last, which is that they're really well-rounded and not necessarily like the master of anything, could be a con for you. You may want something that's gonna take up the entire room. You wanna just blast your speakers Back to the Future style, just like as big as possible. In which case, I don't know if these are the right speakers for you. The second con is that KEF, as simple as they are, sometimes they're not the greatest when it comes to like mobile apps and technology. This is actually why I went with the Metas instead of the wireless. The LSX is like the wireless, where it has all the sort of powered features. I could see those things going bad. I actually had an experience with the previous LSX, and the technology part was a problem. I actually got a RMA as a result, talked with KEF and got a replacement. That all went well, but I wish I didn't go through that to begin with. And so it's not really a technology company. It's a speaker company, and the technology part is a little bit lacking. The third thing I will say is that the speakers themselves, I think they're actually fairly priced for what they are. They're not cheap. They're still over $1,000 for these speakers, but they are, I think, fairly priced for the performance you get. The trouble I have is with a lot of the accessories. So you'll notice that on my LSX, I have these little stands, these metal stands. Those are from KEF. The same with these. I have these stands for the KEF. They're actually from the company. On top of that, sometimes you want like the little like foot things on there so that like it doesn't scratch your floors. All of those accessories end up being pretty expensive. So getting into the KEF ecosystem, not the cheapest thing. And I don't like that, because you think that you're fully in the cost with just the speakers, but then you gotta get the stands and you gotta get the other stuff, the accoutrement, and it adds up way too much. Quick note on the sub. Do you need the sub, the KC62? I think that it does the job great. And in its form factor, to be able to deliver that sort of bass, I think 2 thumbs up. I can't ask for anything more. That being said, I don't know necessarily that I needed it. Some people are big bass heads, so they will need absolutely a sub. I personally think the LS50s actually provide really good bass for their size. For that reason, to spend an extra $1,000 or however much you need to get a nice working sub and all the cables and everything like that, it's a lot. It's a lot, and it's like what you're really getting is just like that much more bass, which can make all the difference to some people, but for others, it's just not worth it. So I personally would recommend just get the speakers first. If you feel like over time you think that you need the sub, this is about as perfect a match of a sub as this. I mean, they're designed to be working together, so it's the right one. And it also, just the form factor, so awesome that it's small. But if you think it's enough bass-wise, just keep it simple. Keep the 2 speakers. So overall, I recommend these speakers for sure. I think it's a little expensive on some of the accoutrement, but for the most part, if you want a jack of all trades, master of none, really nice consumer grade speaker that even audiophiles like myself that are really obsessed with stuff is satisfied with, this would be the one, the KEF LS50. If you already have an integrated amplifier or a receiver, get the Metas. If you don't, get the LS52s. Highly recommended. I love the design. I love the look. I love the sound. The KEF LS50s and the KC62, something that I love. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Mark Kwok. I'll see you guys on the next one.